everyone, it's Cathy Zielske back with another installment of Easy with me, CZ. Today I'll show you how I created this clean and simple card using a stencil, a few inks, and a bit of masking. There's a little bit of setup, but once you get going, you'll be surprised at how quickly a clean and simple design like this comes together. Let's take a look at the supplies I'm using. Got a few inks set aside here, and the stamp set is called Teacher Thank Yous. I'm also going to be using the SLIMLINE floral border to create flowers and grass. I wasn't sure if I was going to add clouds or not because you can do clouds and ground with this, which is kind of cool. So I did pull out some Malibu, but as you'll see, I opted not to do that today. I've also got some brand new Simon Says Stamp blender brushes. I'm going to use the smaller brushes for these smaller little flowers on this particular card, and I will use a larger brush for the grass, and well, I'm not going to make the sky, but if I were, well, I would have been using that large blue brush. So those are the basics. So let's start building the card. The first thing I'm going to do is tape down the stencil just to hold it in place, right? Because I don't want this to move on my cardstock panel. And then I'm going to take more Post-it tape and just cut it into little pieces to mask off all of the bloom areas on this stencil. It takes a little bit of setup and it's a little tedious, you know, but if you just get all those little flowers covered up, before you know it, all you have remaining will be greenery. And then you're ready to add the grass and the leaves. I'm using Jellybean green, and I love this color for greenery. I'm not doing any other color. I'm keeping this very simple. And I'll tap off here and start blending on the color. I like to use my Positively Everything tool because it holds my stamp pads while I ink up, which is nice when I'm holding my other hand down on my stencil. Gives me, well, almost an extra hand, sort of. Anywho, we're blending on the color. We've got our leaves. I'll build up a little more color just around the edge of where the grass meets the stems. And now, it's almost time to switch out the tape. I'll lift off all of the masked off bloom areas, right? Just lift those up. And then I'll repeat the process of masking, but this time we're going to mask off all of the greenery, right? Because now we want to isolate our blooms. So, got everything pieced into place, and you can use some of the same masking tape or Post-it note or whatever you have. But now I'm going to use a little rose apple. And again, the smaller brush is just so nice for these little areas. So I'm going to come into my bloom, have it be a little darker at the base, and because this brush is so small, it makes it so much easier to ink blend and sort of direct that darker ink into smaller spaces. So I'll work my way around for all of this shape of bloom, which kind of looks like a tulip, I guess. Would you call that a tulip? It's tulip-like, but again, dark at the bottom and then fading it up to the top. I'm not getting super fancy with my inks today, right? You don't have to, you know, overcomplicate anything, right? I'm only going to add a two-tone to these, well, I guess they look like cone flowers to me. So I'm going to bring in that same rose apple at the top of the cone flower shape and then come in with my orange, which is clementine, up from the bottom until they meet and sort of gently blend them together. So there we have a common pink among all the flowers, and then I'm just adding a little bit of my clementine for a little pop of color in a two-tone. Again, the smaller brushes, just so great for getting into these small spaces. And I am going to trim this panel down, so I'm not too worried about that outer bloom because I think that one's going to go bye-bye. It's just how it's going to work out. Now let's do the peel and reveal, and look at that cute, clean and simple panel. I love it. All right, I'm making good on my promise to trim it down because I just want this panel to be a little smaller than my card base. So I'll go ahead and cut this panel down using an A2 layers die, run that through, and now I have my sweet little panel ready for stamping. Isn't that cute? All right, let's pop this inside of the MISTI and place down my greeting. My greeting's a little stained because I have been playing with this stamp set quite a bit, and that is perfectly okay. But I'm making sure by looking at the grid on my MISTI that it's perfectly lined up. And I'm just going to ink this up with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Just a really nice black. It's very crisp. It doesn't bleed out at all. And stamping that down because I thought the black ink would look really nice, and look at how crisp that is. Oh, I love it. Next, I will place a little sub-sentiment, the URN. Sounds weird to say that, doesn't it? URN, amazing teacher. And then I'll get that kind of centered in. If your fingers ever stick to your stamps because they're little and they want to stick, use the eraser of a pencil, and that actually helps you to just kind of move it ever so slightly. I'm double checking the alignment, picking it up, and again, inking this up with the Nocturne, and just a gentle press because I don't want to stamp that too heavily. I'll score a card base. This will be a USA2, so it's going to be a top folding card that is 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 tall. It's kind of my go-to size. I don't really branch out a whole lot. But there's the card base. I've got 3 pieces of foam tape on the back, and we are just going to pop that right up on the base with all that wonderful framing margin space. Love the white on white look. I think that's great. And that's it. I'm not doing anything else to this card. I'll pair it with a gorgeous envelope, and I have got my teacher thank you card ready to send to an amazing teacher in my life. I'm actually married to one, so maybe I'll send it to him. Thanks so much for watching. We'd love to have you become a subscriber to the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel, and I'll see you back here next month with another EZ with CZ.